us, and welcome again to the session. We have quite an exciting session planned today, and as the name suggests, we will be covering the topic of direct instruction. And in case you're just wondering what is DI or direct instruction, it's a program that helps close learning gaps and get students back on track and become more engaged learners. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that the session will be about 60 minutes and will be led by experts from National Institute for Direct Instruction, Brian Wickman, Outreach Director, and Tamara Brissy, Implementation Manager. I'd like to thank them for their time and thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here and sharing the knowledge with us.
Great.
And before I hand over, we will be covering a wide range of topics today. I don't want to give too much off because I know we have a look at that later, but you will hear about the details on student assessment prior to instruction. And there's a lot that's going to cover in the next session, including the origin and the definition of direct instruction as well. And I just wanted to introduce you to my colleague, Donna. Donna and I are the moderators of today. We will be here in the background to support you if you have any technical difficulties or if you're facing any issues or you have any questions, let us know. And we're right here in the background to support you if you need any kind of support. And with that, Brian, I would like you to introduce yourself, please. He's the Outreach Director at NIFTY.
Yes, thank you very much for having us today, Sarish. Yes, I'm Brian Wickman. I'm the Outreach Director for the National Institute for Direct Instruction. As that mildly outdated bio says, I've been involved in DI for 40 years. It's been quite an adventure, and people who do get involved in direct instruction, it tends to take on a huge part of their lives, as I hope we will be able to share our passion for DI with you over the next hour.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks again for your time and being here. And we also have joining with us Tamara Brissy, who is the Implementation Manager at NIFTY. Tamara, would you like to speak something about yourself?
Sure, another outdated photo there. It'll just forever immortalize me as quite younger. So as you can see on here, I've been in direct instruction for many, many years, decades, starting out as a classroom teacher with middle school students who had some special needs, then moved into a primary setting as a general ed instructor, continuing to teach direct instruction, started training and supporting schools that NIFTY is supporting in over 20 years ago. So since I stepped out of the classroom, I have been Director of Training Development, not currently in that position, currently right now as an Implementation Manager for the National Institute for Direct Instruction. I have supported and used direct instruction all across the US, outside of the US, have had the blessed privilege of being in the UK and supporting direct instruction in the UK as well as in Australia, our US territory of Guam. So I just bring that out because I can tell you direct instruction works, and it works for a variety of students in a variety of settings.
Thank you. You're right that it does work in a variety of students and variety of settings, and that's why I want to share that knowledge with our participants here. And just before I hang on, I promise this like last 2 slides from me. I just want to cover a few housekeeping slides. Just as the first person in the webinar mentioned, will you be able to hear us? No, you're automatically muted when you get into the webinar, so you will not be able to unmute yourself or share your audio, video as well. And we do recommend, if you close any high bandwidth apps like Netflix, YouTube, gaming platforms, because they do take up bandwidth at the back. We will take up any Q&A towards the end of the session, but feel free to drop them in the Q&A box that's on the left side of the screen, and we'll make a note of those and address them towards the end of the session. A lot of people do want the recording of the session, so this session is being recorded, and we will be sending you the recording of the session. Now, we do want to keep this interactive and engaged as much as possible, so you can interact with the presenters through the chat box, as you're doing so very well. And you can also use the Q&A box if you have any questions, any technical questions or any questions that's addressed to the presenters as well, and we can take them up in the end. And I guess that's all from me. So I'll stop sharing my screen at this point. And over to you, Brian. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, actually, it is a great pleasure to be here. And since we did do introductions of each other, I'm just going to turn it over to Tamara, who will launch us into our 50 minutes of great information.
Great, thank you. And again, yes, I'll echo what Brian said. It's a privilege to be here to speak to passionate educators who want to do the best for their students. So welcome. Thank you for having us. We appreciate your time. We don't take it lightly here that you have reserved this hour for us. So here's our agenda for today. I'm going to share in just a minute our session goals, but look at the different topics we're going to cover, from what is the origin of direct instruction. How was it birthed? Where did it come from? And then what research tells us it's effective? And then you might be still wondering at that point, well, what exactly is direct instruction? Well, we'll get to that. And by the time we're done here, you'll have an understanding of what is actually authentic direct instruction. We'll move from there to talk about the mainline direct instruction program. So you just have an idea of your student population and what program might be best for them, depending on the goals and, again, the grade or year level of your students and the population you're serving. Once you've chosen your programs, well, then how do we assess them? How do we get them into the program? How do we tell if students are at mastery during the program? So we will be talking about that. And then at the end, we'll hear from Brian about what type of training and support you can get for implementing your direct instruction with fidelity. How do you get started with DI? Brian will bring us on home with those couple of topics there. And again, at the very end, we'll have question and answer session for those of you who have some lingering wonderings. So there's our topics. That's what we're about. So let's rock and roll, shall we? It makes sense that our topics lead to session goals. So by the time we're done here, you'll be well versed in the research and the rationale behind direct instruction. You'll be able to share with other people the key principles of direct instruction. You'll have that understanding of the programs and their use, and again, the steps and support for using direct instruction in your classroom. So our topics lead right into our session goals. Phew, makes sense at this end. So let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about the origin of direct instruction. It lies in the genius of Siegfried Engelmann, so affectionately known as Zig, who chose to study the process of learning and instruction from a bit of a new vantage point or different vantage point. In the early 1960s, Zig worked in advertising, and he began to analyze what type of input was necessary for students, for children to induce retention. So those common commercial jingles that you remembered from childhood, how many repetitions did that take in order to get it ingrained? I'm sure you could still recite some now that you learned as a child. Quite effective. Now, his work on these marketing strategies led him to develop techniques for teaching children, and he started with his own children. These early experiments led to direct instruction programs and techniques that we know today. He realized and saw the relationship between how his sons learned and how he instructed them, and he applied this information and this knowledge to his work in education. In 1964, probably before many of you were born, he helped form a preschool where they began using the techniques and testing the techniques of direct instruction with students who came from less advantaged backgrounds. Now, while he was conducting this research, he also developed the central philosophy of direct instruction, which is if a student fails to learn, it's not the fault of the student, but the fault of or rather can lean on, say, faulty instruction. So student fails to learn is not the fault of the student, but let's examine the instruction instead that the student is receiving. So now that you know the origin or the birth of direct instruction, let's talk about the research behind it. It starts with a project called Project Follow Through. It was the most extensive educational experiment that was ever conducted in the US, beginning in 1968 under the sponsorship of our federal government. It was charged with determining the best way to teach students who are at risk for failure in grades K through 8. So if I'm doing my interpreting correctly, then that would be reception through year 4. And it had 3 goals. Of course, we wanted to make sure that students were able to increase in knowledge and skills in the academic areas of instruction or their learning. We wanted to make sure in this project that students increased in their ability to solve problems. And of course, if those 2 top bullets are true, then the third hopefully will come from it, a more positive self-esteem. So Project Follow Through had these 3 goals. And in the end, there were 9 models that were in a final evaluation. You see there were 700,000 children involved and lots of money spent on this. The communities that implemented Project Follow Through spanned the full range of the demographic variables. So from different sites across the US to different size communities. There are also diversity in the ethnic composition of the schools and communities that were a part of the study, as well as a variety in students' backgrounds, social, emotional, social economic status. So students who have lots of disadvantages playing for them or in their background, and students who are more economically advantaged. So you see this Project Follow Through tried to encompass a wide variety of variables here. Now, interestingly enough, it was the parents group in the participating communities that selected the approach that their school district would use, and each school district agreed to implement the approach that was chosen by the parent group. Now, the Project Follow Through had pretty good safeguards to assure that those districts who were participating implemented the approach with fidelity. So the government here provided stipends to supplement local budgets, and they supported the implementation. Now, in the end, this massive study, direct instruction was shown to be the most effective in all areas tested. Remember those goals of increasing their academic performance, increasing their thinking skills and their ability to solve problems, as well as increasing their self-esteem. So in this massive study, direct instruction was proven to be most effective in all those areas. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's well and good. That was in the 1960s, and get with it, will you please? This is 2023. Well, we're here to tell you that since then, decades of research have been conducted that do continue to prove the efficacy of direct instruction programs. Our office, the National Institute for Direct Instruction, has an Office of Research and Evaluation, and that department's goal and mission is to include categorizing and analyzing the literature on direct instruction, to conducting original research on the effectiveness of direct instruction, programs. So not just things that happened in 1960, but things that are happening now, today. What does the current research show? Our office also, as a mission, conducts research on how the National Institute for Direct Instruction model can help students improve in academics, problem solving, and their self-esteem. We also are involved in working with schools and individual researchers to help broaden the base of direct instruction research, as well as taking a look at reviews that others have done on direct instruction. Now, you can see by our website that we have many tabs here for you to explore all the research on direct instruction you could possibly want, and that will help you give some background to why direct instruction continues to be as effective today as it was back before, again, many of you were born, I'm assuming. So we encourage you to go to our website, and you can see on here, just click on the research tab, and there are a variety of places where you can find the research on direct instruction. All right, friends, let's talk about this now. Let's remind ourselves, we know the origin of direct instruction, where Zig started out with in marketing research. And you saw a little bit of the research, and we had some conversation about project follow through, and you know how to get to NIFTY's website to explore the current database of direct instruction. Now let's dive a little bit deeper and talk a little bit about the overriding philosophy of direct instruction. Now, Zig started with this basic premise that all children can learn. Can we just embrace that? All children can learn, not just that child or this child because he or she comes from an academically advantaged position, but all children can learn. If we grasp that, we teach differently. We teach with more passion. We teach with more compassion. All children can learn. If, however, you start with what they know right now, their present level of performance, and you must teach them explicitly, no discovery learning. Students can be successful if you increase the amount of new learning in small steps, and your presentation is very, very clear. And you teach to mastery before you move on. Now, I'm just going to give you a little definition of mastery here. Mastery is a student, anybody, actually being able to do anything they've been asked to do as easily as say his or her own name. So let that sink in a little bit. A student who has mastered a skill if they can do it without hesitation, right? So teaching to that level of mastery, students can be successful. Now, let's continue that philosophy. And Zig started with the premise that all teachers can be successful. And we're going to say hallelujah to that, because as educators, of course, that's what we want to be. And success is measured by the outcome of our students. All teachers can be successful if they get a program that's designed to support and induce mastery, if they get training in that program, if there is enough time in their timetable to teach programs and to teach them to mastery. Of course, as instructors, we need all the material necessary. There's no guesswork, no components that are missing that would allow us to teach our students to mastery. And we put our students together in as homogeneously groups as possible. That means students who have skills, who are like one another. Students can be successful, teachers can be successful if the list of criteria is met. You might still be thinking though, all right, good enough. We've got the origins here. I know where to go get some research. I've got the basic idea, the philosophy behind direct instruction, but you might still be wondering, what is direct instruction? Well, let's get at that. It's a teaching methodology, all right? It's a teaching methodology that identifies and pre-teaches prerequisite skills. Now, this part requires really careful analysis of the subject matter and identification of specific tasks that students need to learn in sequence so the most fundamental skills are taught first. And once that analysis is complete, students are presented instruction that matches the pre-skills they have mastered. Makes sense, right? What do you need? And now let's start you there. Let's teach what you need and let's start you there at their present level of performance. And not only that, we're going to give you distributed practice on it. It's not just a one and done. You see it today, gone tomorrow. Here it is today. Here it is tomorrow. Here it is on the next day. And in fact, friends, here it is in a week from now, in 2 weeks from now. Everything that is taught in a direct instruction program is put into application and is used. It's not forgotten. It's not a one and done, see you later. Distributed practice is key. Another part of the methodology is to make sure that while we are teaching students at their skill level, we clearly present examples so students who are properly placed in the sequence, that they will learn the intended concept and only the intended concept. Now, this is hugely important, and it's a really big contribution of Ziggs to the field of education. This is called faultless communication, where only one interpretation can be reached based on the examples given. Now, in this methodology, if students are having misunderstanding, if they make a mistake, an error, we're going to correct that immediately. You might know and understand from your own experiences that once an error is ingrained or a wrong thing has been practiced, it's very difficult to get it out of. To learn a new habit, to learn a new pattern. So we're going to correct errors immediately so that that error pattern doesn't continue and then lead to further misunderstandings. When all of this is happening, when we are teaching students the pre-skills necessary, we're teaching them at their present level of performance, we're giving them examples that are clear, we are fixing mistakes immediately, all through that, then we are reinforcing students, not just for their achievement, but for their efforts. So it's quite a succinct package we have here to teach students effectively and efficiently. So that's direct instruction. And by the way, it is also why it works, right? These 5 steps in front of you, that's what it is, and that's why it works. Now, we have, again, done quite a bit of work already in our short time together. We've got the origins, we've got the research, and now you have the philosophy of direct instruction and a working definition of what direct instruction is. Let's move us now into our next topic, which is what programs are out there. We have 2 different categories of programs for direct instruction. We have developmental programs and we have remedial programs. Let's focus here on the developmental programs first. The developmental programs are a year equivalent, 1 year of instruction. They are used with the current year level or grade level, although sometimes they can be used with students who are above the grade level or students who are slightly behind their grade level. The developmental programs can be accelerated with more instructional time, again, at mastery, and you have that working definition of mastery. Keep in mind that most of the developmental programs take anywhere from 30, 45 minutes to 90 minutes to teach a full lesson. So let's have a look at what those programs are. For the majority of the students, These are core reading programs. They're not supplemental programs. We have Reading Mastery Signature Edition. It's the 6 levels. We take students from learning to read, to reading to learn, to reading to learning through literature as they walk their way, as you are instructing them through the 6 different levels of this Reading Mastery Signature Edition core reading program. And then another option is Reading Mastery Transformations Edition. That's the newest version of Reading Mastery. It's a 6-level core reading program, just like Reading Mastery Signatures. However, everything is digital. The teacher presentation book is digital, displays are digital. Student work is hard copies, of course. Then you've got Horizons. Horizons is a 4-level core reading program. Again, it's not a supplemental program, it's a core program. This is targeted to students who are already showing about average or above average performance. Let's stay with reading here and talk about some other options you might want to explore. There is Phonics. Phonics is a computer program. It's got 2 levels there, mostly used in a one-on-one setting, tutorial setting, homeschool type setting. Parents use Phonics to teach their students or children at home. Then you see on here, we've got Rewards Intermediate. Now, Rewards Intermediate differs from the other programs we've talked about here, as it is a supplemental program. This program teaches students how to read multisyllabic words, a strategy that most programs don't teach students how to approach a more complex word, break it into parts, and then be able to read the whole word. The target audience is your year 5 through 7. They need to be able to read at a basic reading level before they can take advantage of learning how to read multisyllabic words. We've got programs in language for the majority of students. Taking a look at the Reading Mastery Signature Edition, we just talked about it in the reading strand. There is a companion strand, a corresponding strand in language. Also 6-level program for Reading Mastery Signature and Reading Mastery Transformation, the corresponding language programs. Then you have your Language for Learning, which we work on and use with our wee ones, Nursery 4, Reception. They would move up through Language for Thinking and Language for Writing. Essentials for writing as well for the majority of students in the language program. And you might take a look at Spelling Mastery, which is a 6-level spelling program, taking students from their very basic all the way up through morphographic spelling. Now, don't worry, I know this is coming at you quickly. We're going to have a resource for you where you can look at this material in your leisure. So that being said, let's take a look at what's available for the majority of students in math. Now, the majority of students in math might benefit from DISSTAR. There are 2 levels of DISSTAR arithmetic. It teaches skills that are critical for student success later in school. We would target that with Nursery 4 up through low performing or students in year 3 who haven't mastered the basics of arithmetic so that they can be successful with more complex subjects or content. Connecting Math Concepts, that's a 6-level core program. It's not supplemental. It is a core math program. It's designed so that all students, remember we said that earlier too, all students will learn. They'll learn how to compute, they'll learn how to solve problems, and they'll learn how to think mathematically. Understanding mathematics requires the connection between related mathematic concepts and the world around us. So connecting maths concepts helps helps our students make that connection between math and the world around them as they learn critical math skills. You'll see essentials for algebra here. Essentials for algebra, it teaches a solid foundation for traditional Algebra 1 courses, and it teaches students enough about algebra and other topics that are typically presented in high school math exams that are required for graduation. So lots of programs for the majority of our folks. Let's take a little bit of a dive here now and talk about programs to meet specific needs. Now we have Horizons Fast Track, A, B, and C, D. This is a specific need in that it will address students who are at level or above level and take them through 2 years of reading in 1 year's time, and that's Horizons Fast Track. Then you have a 4-level intervention program of decoding, corrective reading decoding. The target here is year 4 on up through adults. It can be used with a wide range of students in those grade levels. I've used it with adults personally myself. Students learn to identify words accurately, how to pronounce those words, and how to read more fluently in corrective reading decoding. And then you'll see rewards secondary, just like rewards intermediate that we looked at moments ago. This one is geared towards older students, and it teaches them multisyllabic word reading strategies so that they can attack those words in social studies and science that are often multisyllabic and carry the content of whatever it is they're reading. Taking a look at the language and specific needs to meet language and writing instruction, staying with the corrective reading comprehension. Now, we just talked about corrective reading decoding. It has a sister strand in comprehension. This is another 4-level program that, oh my goodness, it is quite an amazing program for comprehension. It teaches students vocabulary. It teaches students background information. It teaches students how to understand what it is they're learning to read. So without that, students can read like a house of fire, but if they don't have enough language skills, it simply is an activity of decoding. But with teaching them specific language skills, reading becomes what we all want it to be, which is reading for meaning. We have expressive writing that you might use as an intervention program. It's a 2-level writing program. Students translate what they're seeing into sentences. They write paragraphs that don't deviate from the topic. I know you probably all have read those paragraphs that go, oh my goodness, I didn't know we were talking about your dog. I thought we were talking about the economic whatever, right? So in expressive writing, we're keeping students on topic. They learn to write a variety of different sentences using different syntax. They learn to quote what people say within the context of a paragraph. And they learn the really important skill of editing. They edit for clarity. They edit for punctuation. They edit for paragraphs and sentence types. So these are some specific needs programs in language and reading. Let's move us to some specific need programs in math. So taking a look at phonics math, again, just like its sister program in reading, it's a computerized program. You're going to use it with your younger students or older students who've not learned those basic math operations. And it's mostly very much used in a homeschool setting or one-on-one with students. Corrective math is a 7-module math intervention program. 7 modules allow it to be flexible so that you can use the module that best fits where your students have a deficit. So basic operations, there is an addition module. There's a subtraction module, a multiplication module, and up the line division, fractions, decimals, and percents, etc. We would use this in year 5 through adults, students who are behind and need to use these basic or learn these basic mathematics skills. Corrective math can be taught in a larger group, but it's best taught with groups that in a smaller setting. So there you have some information on direct instruction programs to meet the majority of students and to meet specific needs population. Now, if you want all that information in one spot and be able to look at it at your leisure, you can go to our nifty website and look for the program reference chart. This program reference chart has all the direct instruction programs in it. It will tell you who the target audience is. It tells you all the structural details about it, how many lessons, what material you need, how long does it take to teach these lessons. And that's there for you so that you can go back and take a look at the programs at your own pace. Now we're going to move into the next part of our topics here because we've talked about the origin and we've talked about authentic direct instruction, what it is and how is it helpful for us. We talked a little bit about the research-based, and we've also just spent some time talking about the mainline direct instruction programs. Before we move into assessment before and during instruction, it's going to be helpful for you to have a little bit of information about what a direct instruction lesson looks like. And so here we'll pause ever so momentarily on scripts. Everything in a direct instruction lesson is written out for us. What to do, what to say, how to say it, what's the expected student response. Everything that teachers and students do are specified in a script. Now, the script helps us keep everything consistent, keeps the language of instruction the same from day to day to day. So we don't confuse our learners by coming in with new wording, new phraseology, new strategies that would confuse, especially our fragile learners. Scripts are very efficient in terms of instructional time because we don't have to then guess at what's an example and what's a minimally different example. It's done for you. The scripts allow for showmanship. They allow you to teach like it matters. All right, so that you can follow a script and still be you. I would encourage you to do that and support you all as you follow the script and still be yourself, teaching like it matters, because it does matter. Bring your enthusiasm when you teach your lessons. So I'm going to show you what one looks like here in just a minute, but give you a little bit of background on the conventions of a script. You're going to say what's in blue, you do what's in the parentheses, and the italicized type shows the student responses. Let's take a little look at a lesson here. This is an example from Reading Mastery 2, Signature Edition. So it is the 3rd level of that core reading program. And this is lesson 15, so we're early into the program. So by the power of what I just learned to do the other day, I'm going to do some highlighting for you in this PowerPoint. So this blue part here, this is the part that you say, right? These are the words that this the instructor is going to say. You see this that says signal, it's in parentheses. This is what you do. And you see the italicized writing here. That is the expected student response. Right, so we're going to do just a little bit of a demonstration here on this, where Brian's going to be my student. And I want you to follow along with me. I want you to see that I am teaching as scripted as soon as I erase all of this so I can see my I can see it better. Yes. And delete that. All right, here we go. I want you to watch that I'm following the script. I am being me, and I am teaching with enthusiasm. Brian's going to respond to this vocabulary review, and he's not going to make any mistakes. And you're going to see that when it gets to the signal part, I am going to do a hand drop signal. This is going to ask Brian and let Brian know when to respond. I need all my students responding at the same time so that I know who knows it and who doesn't know it. Are they at mastery? Can I move on? Or do I need to do an error correction and fix it right away? So whatever error that might have been presented does not get carried into the next portion of the lesson. So you ready, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
And y'all have your own tasks to do as you watch. Again, see that I follow the script and teach with enthusiasm. Here we go. Here's the vocabulary sentence you learned in the last lesson. The workers propped up the cage with steel bars. Everybody say that sentence. Get ready.
The workers propped up the cage with steel bars.
What word names a tough metal?
Steel.
What was made of steel?
Bars.
What two words mean supported?
Propped up.
What did the bars prop up?
The cage.
Excellent answering on signal, Brian, and getting those answers right the first time. Kiss your brain. Do it.
Too early.
Did you kiss your brain?
Oh, yeah.
I missed that part. So
Yeah.
what we just did there was a simple hand drop signal. Students are looking at us. They're not looking at their book, so they can watch what my hand is doing. There's a variety of different signals in your direct instruction programs that you would learn during training and how to apply them. Now that you know a little bit about what the direct instruction lesson looks like, let's talk about how to get your students into the programs. Because direct instruction programs are based on present level of skill and not necessarily or completely wedded to their grade level or year level, you want to make sure that you give a placement test to your students so that the program that you've selected, they begin at the level appropriate for their present level of performance. So give the tests first that corresponds to their current grade level or year. And if they pass that test, of course, test up and keep testing up until they don't pass and you have their present level of performance and the level perfect for them. If they fail that initial grade level test or year level test, then test down, keep testing down until you find that place. And then keep a recording of it so that you can see how your students have placed, and then group students into homogeneous groups, meaning students who are more alike than not in terms of their present level of performance. And you would repeat those 4 steps for each subject area that you will be teaching in direct instruction. All the placement tests are available on our website if you want to go there and just download them. Excuse me. Easy access for you, so you have them all right there at your fingertips. Brian and I are going to take a few moments here and actually do a placement test. I want you to watch this placement test as we roll this out. This is a placement test for Reading Mastery Signature Edition Grade K. This is going to tell us if Brian places in this level and if he places at lesson 1 or lesson 11, or maybe Brian can be on fast cycle in this lesson or this level. Now this test, it's the first level of Reading Mastery Signature, is given to each student individually and takes about 2 to 4 minutes to administer. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, there is a scoring sheet, and on the right-hand side of the screen, there is a screenshot of what the students are looking at. You also see over at the far right, the points necessary for students in order to place at various levels of the program. So again, with the use of some technology here. I'm going to be able to score him right away. You ready, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
All right, you all watch and see how he does and see where we should place him. You're going to say some sounds. Say rrr.
Rrr.
Now say d. Oh, sorry, friends. Excellent. All right. These are sounds. This sound is what sound? Is this
Yes.
Is this
No.
Is this
No.
Is this
Yes.
Thanks for looking carefully. Is this
No.
Good, careful looking. It's right here. This sound is ah. What sound? Sorry. Is this ah?
No.
Is this ah?
Yes.
Is this ah?
Yes.
I don't. Is this ah? Sorry, is this ah? Is this ah?
No.
Oh my gosh, gremlins. No, is this ah?
Yes.
Yes. All right. We're ready for the next part then. Listen, let's play Say It Fast. Listen, icebox. I can say it fast. Icebox. Listen, football. Say it fast.
Football.
Listen. Here's another word. Nose. Say it fast.
Note.
All right. First, I'll say a word slowly, then you'll say that word slowly. I'll say zoo slowly. Listen. Zoo. Your turn. Say zoo. Zoo.
Zoo.
Now we'll say we slowly. Listen. We. Your turn. Say we.
We.
All right. I'm going to count out my points for Brian. Out of 20 possible, writing with a mouse here, he's earned 16 points. And you can see then the placement test tells us specifically that he can start at lesson 11, and doesn't have to start at lesson 1. And we don't need to give part 2 of the placement test again because of the points he's got scored there. We're going to erase all the ink on the slide and move us to the next item of here. Now we know we're going to place students using a placement test so that they get in the right spot for reading, language, and math. Now what happens when they're in the middle of the program? Well, mastery tests are scattered throughout the programs depending on what program you are using and what level. The frequency of them varies. Now your mastery test is going to tell you if students have the necessary skills from one test to the next in order to be successful to carry on in the program. You'll also see that for reading, students have individual checkouts for fluency and rate. These also vary according to the program and the level that you are using to teach your students. Here's an example of a mastery test from decoding. It's an intermediate program that we talked about moments ago. This is B1, and it's at the second level of the reading intervention program. And students here are to circle the word that corresponds to the word that the instructor dictated. And so they would, it would sound like this, item 1. So students would look at item 1. This teacher would say, some. What word? And the students would repeat the word. Some of them were old, circle the word some. And you can tell by looking at the words in each row that they're minimally different, which ensures that our students have learned to read the word that has been dictated, not guess at it, not use context clues for it, but be able to decode it. As you can see how minimally different the words are on each line. Here's an example of a mastery test in connecting math concepts, level D, mastery test 5. In this part 2, students are using a number family, which is unique to corrective math and connecting math concepts. And they are to write the problem, work the problem and write it. And then part 6, students are to start with rows and columns that they can work and figure out the missing number. So these are examples of mastery tests and give you a little bit of information too on the content of the programs that we've taken a look at. So origins, research, what is direct instruction? What are the programs? Look what we've covered already, friends. And placement test and in-program assessments. Whoo-wee! Brian's going to take over now, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the support you can receive for all of the above.
Gremlins. Thank you, Tamara. And thank you to McGraw Hill for giving us the opportunity to talk just a little bit about how Nifty can assist people in implementing direct instruction with fidelity. Nifty was founded about 25 years ago or so by Zig Engelman to show the power of direct instruction and what could do, the results that could be achieved with a high level of fidelity, as I said. So what Nifty can help people with, we provide training on administering and scoring direct instruction placement tests. We can assist then after we do that basic assessment with grouping the students and then helping inform, because of that placement, what materials are going to need to be ordered and scheduling to accommodate maximum success in the DI programs. We provide pre-service training on how to deliver the programs. And we actually are we are going to be holding a training in the UK in July, which I'll tell you about in a couple of moments. So you can hit the road running on the first day of school instead of spending maybe 2 weeks or so figuring out, well, exactly where are these kids and what am I going to be doing with them? As we said, as Tamara pointed to, the looking for efficiency in trying to help these kids, because time is the one commodity that you can't get more of. We provide on-site coaching or remote visits. So an implementation manager such as Tamara would go into the classrooms, hopefully, no, not hopefully, with a school-based DI facilitator who we would work to help develop their skills, enabled to identifying student performance problems and the necessary remedies to those students to obviate those student performance problems. We heavily rely on data we need with these programs. The data load, the workload on the teacher for collection of data is really pretty minimal. What we're looking at is lesson progress. So how many lessons did we get through in this day, in this week? And we also look at mastery test information to see what, as a individual student, how are they performing within the context of the program. We also, there's independent work which the teacher scores and records the information on that independent work that the students are doing. We also have an option of just being kind of thought partners or mentoring services. And we have a number of different trainings for development of leadership in the administrative end and coaching to provide the program support that's needed in the classrooms. Next, we do want to tell you about, we're very excited to be offering our first open enrollment live training in the UK. Tamara will be coming in July 6th and 7th, as you see at Heath Lane Academy at Leicester. I'm sorry for my massacred pronunciation. And Tamara will be doing training in the corrective math modules. And then we're very pleased that our associate Kim Flynn will be doing a training in corrective reading decoding. These are 2 full days of training on each program. You can register by going to our website, nifty.org, and we would be delighted to have you folks participate or send your colleagues also. So that covers really the things that we're wanting to. Oh, and I would mention also that we have our National Direct Instruction Conference that happens July 24th through 28th out here in Eugene, Oregon. Some of our participants in this webinar today, attendees at this webinar, have joined us in the past and will continue to come on out to Oregon to receive training on direct instruction programs, or we also offer institutes which include coaches training, an intensive 1-week coaches institute, and also an intensive 1-week institute on becoming an effective DI trainer, which is what has gotten Kim to the level that she's able to confidently and competently present training in direct instruction. So we have just a very few minutes. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to hear from you. And if time does not allow, we'd be delighted to have you email us questions to info@nifty.org and answer them in that manner.
Thank you, Tamara and Brian. That was really informative. We do have questions that have come in. I wonder if we have 2 minutes, so maybe we can cover it off really quickly. Okay, sure. Great. So there's one that says, I have a SEN child who struggles with higher complex language and reasoning and interfacing. She's 11 with ASD. I'm planning to start corrective reading comprehension, but would language for learning be much better?
I would encourage you, thank you for that question, and your diligence in getting your student what he or she needs. Language for learning will move at a slower rate than your corrective reading comprehension. I would encourage you to start this way, though. Start with giving the comprehension placement test. That will let you know that your student will fit there, or perhaps doesn't have the skills yet to benefit from the comprehension program. And then you would be able to use then down into language for learning. But start with the comprehension placement test, get your information from there, and that'll tell you the level in comp that your student would place at, or it will tell you that they don't have the skills yet to fit into that program, and you should use a lower language program, which would be language for learning.
Okay, she's responded and said, I already did, and she came out at comprehension A.
Okay. Then start with comprehension A. I would move with or go with the placement test results. Remember, you're going to teach to mastery, which means if your student makes an error, you're going to correct it right away. You're going to do it over. Sometimes it takes multiple repetitions, and you'll see how your student is doing on the daily lessons, of course, but also by the time that he or she gets to the first mastery test, which is at lesson 10.
Thank you. And one more question from Dwayne Rachel. It says, do you know if there will be a possibility of funding towards the courses available or even being able to pay in parts at all? I'm very interested in taking the course, but the outlay is a bit high to find in one go.
I could speak to that, at least to some part of it. There is an organization called the Engelman Foundation. Zig Engelman and his family dedicated a substantial amount of money to go towards grants for a variety of different purposes, supporting direct instruction. So if you go to engelmanfoundation.org, you can see the grant seeking pages, yeah, check that out.
Thank you. And I don't see any other questions, and I know we're also on time. So if you have any questions, you can let us know on email. I will also drop my email address in the chat box, and you can let us know and I can pass it on to the presenters. I'm really interested in joining the UK course. Great, that's perfect.
Yes, definitely one last thing I'd like to highlight is that we do have NIFTY does have a UK representative, that's Susie Wybrow, and as you see her email down there, niftyuk@nifty.org. You can contact Susie to find out more about training or to visit a school that's utilizing direct instruction.
Okay, I'll type that out for you guys in the chat box as well, so you can pick it up, but it will be in the recording as well. There you go. You can contact Susie there on that email address if you're based in the UK. And thank you again for joining us today. It was wonderful. Very great session. Honestly, guys, thank you so much. I learned a lot myself.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Fast and furious, and we appreciate your attention.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time.
Bye.
Great. Thank you.